All right, we are back with the GSMC Wrestling Laureate Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Eric Rodriguez, here every Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Pacific Time, 11 p.m. Eastern Time. We're here to talk about everything in terms of the world of professional wrestling, talk about all the action inside and out, backstage drama, talk about superstar, injury statuses and activity, reports. We also talk about, contract signings, negotiations, extensions, also signings from like promotions from AEW to WWE to New Japan Professional Wrestling to the CMLL, from TNA to Ring of Honor. If it makes major news in the world of professional wrestling, we talk about it here on the podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in once again. Just kind of reflect on what we talked about right quick. We had my WWE NXT review. We had my AEW Grand Slam Dynamite preview. Then we talked about some potential storylines for returning WWE superstars, and now we're going to talk about Netflix's Mr. McMahon, which is available now. Make sure you check it out. It's a 6 episode docuseries, and I'm going to be watching that throughout the day. It came out today, so maybe an episode tonight. Maybe I'm just kidding. No, not that. I still have the AEW Grand Slam taped, and I can't wait to watch that. And I doubt at like around 11 p.m. if I'm going to be able to stay up for some good old fashioned Vince McMahon banter. I'm just kidding. Moving on. So let's go and talk about some Mr. McMahon. Mr. McMahon. No chance. No chance now. No chance. No chance for Vince McMahon. Wow. Vince McMahon, obviously, you saw the Mr. McMahon docuseries coming out on Netflix. Vince claims that he's nothing like the character you see portrayed in WWE. Obviously, like I said, I'm not going to spend, this isn't an episode or a segment about, bashing Vince McMahon. Okay. But if it was, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. But obviously a man, it's not easy to be a business owner, and I'm not trying to condone any actions whatsoever. I guess he had reasons for, being the way he was. I heard he, kind of rule with an iron fist kind of mentality in terms of how you handle business. You know what I mean? Not really how I would have handled it, but then again, I was never really in his shoes. Obviously, in terms of the WWE divas, and like I said, I'm not trying to push the envelope too far here. Some of the most beautiful girls you've ever seen in your whole entire life. Once again, not condoning any actions of sexual harassment or anything like that. You know what I mean? But I, a guy who's I can't even. Oh my God, I can't even talk. Uh, a guy who literally, he had everything. You know what I mean? He had a great business. His son, his daughter was, part of it. His son-in-law. You had grandchildren, grandbabies, and then like you found a way to have a blessing from God, having this amazing wrestling conglomeration that is WWE, and due to lustful nature, to to misled judgment, to a over ego, like it kind of messed it up, man. He messed it up, dog. You know what I mean? But I don't know. It's kind of crazy. Vince McMahon was asked by director Chris Smith what similarities he shares with the character portrayed in WWE Mr. McMahon, and he said this, and I quote: the character Mr. McMahon with me, none whatsoever." And obviously, right off the bat, you were kind of like, "Are you serious right now?" Watching on WWE, I've been a WWE fan for such a long time. You know, uh, essentially, the show goes your way. Whatever Vince wanted, that's exactly what happened. And like a lot of spots where he was put in a predicament where he was like, having an affair with Trish Stratus or something like that. That dance with Stacy Keibler that became a, worldwide meme on the World Wide Web. Like, you kind of book yourself in these situations, and it's not, that's essentially kind of like, being a director of a movie, and you're in charge of casting. You're in charge of casting, and then you have this kissing scene coming up or you have this scene where you're like this big head honcho guy and you're like, you know what, I could do that. You like, you know what I mean? Or I want the the prettiest girl, and like it's you know I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to, I don't want to jump across any, any rivers here. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to stir the pot, but ultimately, I felt like he put himself in a position as, and I watched this on Raw, on SmackDown, where I was like, oh, look, Mr. McMahon is once again next to an attractive lady. You know what I mean? That's, not really, not really a surprise. You know what I mean? Um, you kind of have a lot of from what I've read about WWE divas in terms of how to please Mr. McMahon and kind of have him in your good graces, basically, you gotta stroke the ego. You know what I mean? You basically, and that, and it's interesting to say in terms of any kind of professional setting where sexual harassment lawsuits would obviously are very seriously, it's something that you should never ever do. But for some strange reason, Vince McMahon, I think there was a point where he was like, you know what? I'm basically, I don't want to say God, or like, I don't want to, I feel like he felt he was, you know, the leader of a multi-million dollar wrestling sports entertainment franchise. You feel like you're untouchable. Obviously, nowadays with with a lot of hush money allegations and court settlements, and then of course with everything that's going on with the Janelle Grant allegations and sexual human trafficking, it's it just like having that thing kind of lingering over your head. It's not good. It's not good, and I'm not sure Vince McMahon's public image will ever come back. I know this documentary did air, and I know that he was very concerned about his image kind of being not scrutinized, tarnished, kind of being, disrespected. But if you kind of do disrespectful stuff, at the end of the day, you kind of, you kind of deserve it, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but I don't know. Overall, kind of crazy. His son Shane McMahon said that the character Mr. McMahon is an extension of Vince, but it's blown way out of proportion. Obviously, obviously, and that's your son. Trying to protect your dad's ass there. I love that. Respect that. Other interviewees would obviously say otherwise. Shawn Michaels said the difference between Mr. McMahon and Vince probably probably not that much, not much of a discrepancy. Hulk Hogan said that that's exactly the same person. Bruce Prichard said that the character Vince McMahon is really just Vince. He'll tell you differently, and he's like, no, Mr. McMahon is Mr. McMahon is Vince in a lot of promos and diatribes, that basically have been cut. He cut a lot of promos. Also, he talked to other people and have actually, cut one in front of him. He was able to cut a promo in real life and stuff like that. It was kind of crazy. And Vince McMahon, basically, no, Bruce Prichard said that, Vince was like, you know what? I'd never say that. I never say that. And then he was like, yeah. Prichard was like, I'd say, yeah, honestly, you would. You've said it to me a bunch of times. Kind of putting him on spot in terms of real life examples. And, once again, Vince McMahon obviously trying to protect your own, public relation image and stuff like that. But it's easy, it's kind of hard, especially after everything that's happened. Um, Also, the disturbing allegations in the Janelle Grant sex trafficking lawsuit. Vince obviously didn't want this docuseries Mr. McMahon to conflate him with his character, although I feel like it's kind of too late. Vince's statement toward the Netflix docuseries originally announced in 2020s. WWE Studios were producers, but obviously I feel they bounced out. It was basically when Vince was still in charge, that's when they were like, you know what, yeah, let's have a docuseries. Vince McMahon was all for it. But then once when it was, once when he resigned from WWE, that's when I feel like it kind of took a more like personal approach because Netflix is starting. They're going to air Monday Night Raw, so they're going to have to be, gonna have to be partners and stuff like that. So, obviously, having this docuseries air which causes a lot of scrutiny in terms of Vince McMahon overall, kind of, has a lot of negative eyes toward the WWE. And I feel like that's why Vince McMahon ultimately left the WWE for the betterment of the company. Obviously, his son in law is running it right now. Sasha Banks talked about her WWE exit. Mercedes Moné said that, and I quote, "I left for many reasons. A lot of, kind of just weird stuff happened with myself and the chairman at the time. I was talked down to. If I stay in WWE, that's not okay. What are you going to teach your kids? You know what I mean? Kind of being like, you kind of have to have self-respect. And like Vince McMahon is just, it's just overall, he's just one person, but at the same time, get on that power trip, then it's all like, it's all downhill from there, kind of thing. Vince McMahon also did, release a statement in terms of everything that, basically what has happened with this whole Netflix thing. And he says, and I quote, "I don't regret participating in this Netflix documentary. The producers had an opportunity to tell an objective story about my life and the incredible business that I built, which were equally filled with excitement, drama, fun, and a fair amount of controversy and life lessons. Unfortunately, based on an early partial cut, I've seen this documentary fall short and takes a predictable path of conflating the Mr. McMahon character with my true self, Vince. The title and promos alone make that evident. A lot has been misrepresented or left out entirely in an effort to leave viewers, intentionally confused. The producers used typical editing tricks without the context, footage, and dated sound bites, etc., to distort viewers' perception and support and deceptive narrative. In an attempt to further their misleading account, the producers use a lawsuit based on an affair I ended as evidence that I am in fact Mr. McMahon. I hope the viewer will keep an open mind and remember that there are two sides of every story. Eh, it's kind of crazy. It is crazy. I honestly I can't wait to watch it. Mr. McMahon actually wanted to buy the Netflix, documentary for reasons why I do not know. You know what I mean? Well, I do not know. Uh, Mr. McMahon believes that in a public statement, he called the docuseries misleading and deceptive. So obviously, he didn't really like what happened. He didn't really get a final say in the final cut. WWE didn't either. So at the same time, you're kind of starting to have this new audience on Netflix, and then you're going to debut something like WWE. Could, kind of be like a double-edged sword here. But the life of Mr. McMahon was very interesting. That's all I really have to say about Vince. And like the only good thing about Vince was the way he kind of stood his ground during the Monday Night Wars, the way he was able to, he cared about that business. He did 1,010%. Obviously, maybe something's not the right way, but he would insert himself in the storyline. That feud with Stone Cold Steve Austin. His son Shane, Stephanie. Obviously, that's the reason why Stephanie definitely got a lot of closer with Triple H. That's the reason why they're married today. So there's a lot of stuff that I honestly, I'm not trying to take the side of Vince McMahon and be like, okay, yeah, there's two sides to every story. Because at the same time, as a wrestling fan, you kind of knew what was going on before something like this, like a docuseries on Netflix came out. Like, you know what I mean? You kind of knew. Like, you know what I mean? So I don't know. It's kind of crazy. But we gotta wrap this up. 1,010%. Our last but definitely not least segment, we're going to talk about some my Wednesday's weekly wrestling news. So, hey, do not go anywhere.